I'm back. um, so if you guys can get some snacks, and then back there, I think there's brownies, prosciutto, coffee.
There are brownies. I waited back there until they showed up.
Okay, we'll just get started because they could hear us back there. Yeah. So I think we're looking at hygiene, and I think we touched upon it several different sessions a little bit. And I think somebody asked at the last session about how they clean the equipment at Dave and Buster's, or was that Caesar's? I didn't catch that.
I think both, Dave and Buster's.
So I feel as though hygiene is a very important issue because these are the top ones that I found really problematic when we were running the arcade in the mall. First of all, there are a lot of kids with food allergies, right? And there was a mom that came up and said, hey, my child is allergic to peanuts. Can you make sure it's all wiped down? So I actually made the kids wipe their hands with like baby wipes first that were coming up, and then also the equipment, certainly wiping off the equipment, the controllers and the headset. And the other thing is just sweat. Lots of bacteria causes the odors, and so that's just really nasty. And then body odor, even we have the backpack, so the shoulder straps actually trap a lot of the sweat, and then and we found that if we spray it down with every other time with lots of alcohol, we mix the alcohol with half alcohol, half water, so it's not too strong, and we sprayed it down. That seemed to eliminate the odor the next time that people came by. And then there's this super resistant head lice that's been around, and there's been uptick of that. It was in the news recently. In ABC 7 News, they reported on that. So these are all things that I find are really nasty and problematic in related to VR LBE equipment. So earlier, I wanted to ask the VR LBE some information, some questions about that. So some of the questions I wanted to pose out to VR LBEs were, do people complain about the smell or the sweat? And I think Amy mentioned earlier yesterday too, the makeup rubbing off on the headset. And if everybody's using covers on the headsets, alcohol wipes, antibacterial wipes, and microfiber cloths. The other thing we found was interesting was I made the little spray bottle of a solution, half alcohol and half water, and used that to spray it down and wipe it dry, sort of, with the microfiber, but not as well as probably Amy's clean box. So I guess we didn't hear from Matthew Hofrechter yesterday, but we did hear from Amy, so I wanted to ask Matt to kind of introduce his company, VR Cover, and talk a little bit about it, and then we'll go on to some questions.
Okay, thanks. Apologies I couldn't make it yesterday. So I think most of you guys know VR Cover. I was very happy to see how many people came up and say, yeah, we use your stuff, it's absolutely top. I didn't expect that, and I'm very happy about it. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, we have covers where you can pull off what's already on the headset, and we put the actual facial interface in. We design parts, plastic parts, we call that the interface, which you plug into the headset, and then we put a foam on it, which you can usually take off with a Velcro if it isn't already designed that way on the headset. Then we have wipes, we have disposable covers, which you can stick on it. We have antibacterial wipes without alcohol to wipe it clean. That's basically solutions we have, and a few additional gadgets. And we work all the time on new materials, new devices, new things that we can put on, like for the nose to block the light leak. So we invest a lot of time there to come up with things. We try to cover for people with, like my face, long, slim faces where you have light leaks on the side. We try to do faces more like the Asian face. We are based in Asia, so a lot of people who have less of a nose and a more white face, so you have the light leaks here. So we try to cover these various faces with our covers that we have. That's basically what we do.
Thanks, Matt. And I picked Matt because on their website, VR Cover, they actually Oh, actually, maybe it was another website. But anyway, there are websites that talk about keeping your headsets clean, and having a nice cover on it that's easily cleanable is actually really, really important. So, first question is, who are your customers, demographic, region, kind of a breakdown of where you see your customers, I guess, that purchase your products.
Me?
Amy?
Maybe you start.
Customers are everywhere because anybody's using any kind of headset is going to need to address hygiene. I know this question has come up on, or maybe a comment has come up on panels before. Do we really need hygiene? And I am actually always surprised to hear that question because I decide that, most likely if someone's asking that question, I am not going to be sitting across from them at the dinner table. We won't be sharing any food or glass of anything. But it is, I think I kind of was reiterated, and I will answer your question. During the last panel, when they were talking about, when Chuck and Kevin were both talking about having that premier customer experience. First impressions last. If someone has a bad experience, they're not going to want to do it again. And the industry needs good experiences. Sometimes I think the fact that VR and AR have been buzzwords for a while has sort of worked against the industry as a whole because people, if they've had one bad experience, then they don't want to try it again, whether that be bad from motion sickness or from something else, or from hygiene. So coming back to the whole, you mentioned smells. Smells are a factor that you have to address. So is sweat, so is oil, so are children's, dirty fingers, wherever they've been. So yeah, for us, our customers are global. They're entertainment, they're also healthcare. And industrial purposes. So we're finding any we're a B2B product, so any kind of mass use hardware, which expands from VR to AR headsets, earphones, and then releasing product later this year for haptics and et cetera.
Maybe I add from our side, I think it's a little bit different between us because for us it's really the individual consumer. Of course, it's the arcades as well, but these are the ones we recognize. They're all on our own website, but suddenly we have an order with like 30 covers or more, so we know, okay, this is either a reseller or usually it's an arcade, yeah, which is fine. By the way, you can contact us directly as well. Yeah. So, but usually the broad range of customers is like enthusiasts, people who play a lot, who sit at home. Yeah. I talked to one guy here from the esports team who said he goes to events and he just clicks it basically on his belt, yeah, and he goes to the place and he takes his own one off, yeah, which also helps him to be recognized as a player. So these are people who are our clients, and considering the cost of the headsets, a lot of it is still in the Western countries. Yeah, I mean we see Asian countries coming more, but mainly you have developed countries, which is the Western markets, yeah, and then also like Korea and Japan a bit.
Okay, so then that leads me to why should VR LBE businesses invest in VR hygiene? Like, what are the risks of not investing in it, and what are the cost-benefit analysis?
Well, immediately, there are twofold. Risk of not investing is something that you just mentioned. That is your headset themselves. They're expensive to purchase, and if you're not addressing it in a very proactive way, especially if you're an LBE of any kind or an FEC or something like that, you could be risking there are stories. I told people I would call them up here and share the story, and maybe I will later on. But I know I've gone to events all over the world. I've had people tell me at the end of a conference, they'll literally throw the headset away. And that seems pretty expensive to me, but the reason that they do it is after certain, when I was at CES, we did 3,500 demos in 3 days. After that many people, and those were just the ones that we scanned, that's disgusting. Everybody, you're going to have sweat, you're going to have smells, and whether you can get rid of it or not, that's an investment that's your hardware that you've invested in as part of your business model. And the other component is sweat actually does sometimes get into the electronics, and that will damage and will affect the experience that they continue to have. So I think there's a very practical approach to it, and I think if I could just expand on that quickly to say, as we all hope the industry grows, because we're all dependent on it growing in many ways. That means more people. That means higher volume. That means whatever you were able to get away with thus far, hopefully it'll be a good problem to have. You can't get away with that anymore, because more people will be wanting to use it. So these are things that I think if you really have your short and long-term vision for what you're trying to do with virtual or augmented reality, I think you've got to take all this into consideration.
Yeah, I can only support that. Yeah, when we talk with the manufacturers, they say that their own teams are discussing what kind of foam should we use. And they said some people in the team come and say, I just had that conversation yesterday, and say, no, why are we using that foam? It's an open foam, not the PU foam, which is basically in a mold, made in a mold, which means the cover, the outside is closed. Yeah, they use an open one, and they put a Velcro on top. And I think the guys, really? And I say, yeah, why are we doing this? Yeah? But they say they have a trade-off, right? The main user of the headsets is not the arcades. The main user is the individual consumer. They go for comfort. They play an hour here, an hour there. Yeah, so for them, it's acceptable. But what happens is you sweat, or the players sweat. The sweat goes into the foam. I had a video of somebody who 2 days ago who used a VR cover, and he said he used his headset for 1 year, and he started to get not a rash, but I don't know how you call it in English, but his face got red. Because after 1 year, you have so much stuff in the foam, you can't use it. So for them, it's a trade-off. Yeah? Most people use it like that, it's fine. But the enthusiasts or the arcades, you use it a lot. You get a lot of different sweat. You need a different cover. Now, Scott from Zero Latency said, right, I asked him, so is hygiene for you a cover a problem or not? And he said, well, it's not a problem. It's not an issue until it is. Yeah, so that's like in data science, you say it has a very low probability, but if it happens and people talk about it on Facebook, well, I caught this shit on it, I have a rash, it doesn't go away, you're screwed. Yeah, so it's like you don't do it, you're taking a risk. So that's for me. You were asking what's the value proposition. Yeah, the value proposition is you don't get that problem. You get the problem.
Totally.
Tough.
I totally agree with you. The only thing I would say is the low probability part. Every single event that I'm at, somebody comes up to me and says, I got a rash from this last event. I got pink eye from the last event. I had an outbreak, eye herpes. Okay, so whether the fact that I'm hearing this at every single event means that it, number one, is happening. And even if there are times when maybe that person was exposed elsewhere, they're associating it with that event. They're associating it with that experience. And I myself don't even get to try new experiences at VR events because of that, because I choose not to, and I see a lot of people making that choice as well. And that's just a barrier of entry that I think companies like yours and like mine are hoping to help address, so that we can all continue to be more successful.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to point out an interesting fact about smells, actually. I was reading this study that said there's a substance in boars' testes and also present in some people's sweat, and it's called androstenone. So they tested several, I don't know how many thousand people, but they said they figured that 50% of the people can't detect the smell. It's supposed to be, I don't know, so they can't detect it, but 35% of the population thought, or the test group, thought it was a very strong, stale urine smell. Yeah. And then 15% thought it was a floral, musty, woody note smell.
Yeah, some might like it, right? You never know.
People are weird.
That was interesting. But so if, I think this is, I guess for both of you, but what's the ROI, return on investment, on investing in your product for an LBE VR facility?
For me? Well, so I think it's, again, twofold. You've got the end consumer and what their reaction will be. I think there's a direct correlation between, like I said before, the experience and a return customer. If you want those customers to continue to come back, you need to provide them with a premium experience. And by premium, I say premium in exactly what they're expecting. I think all the LBEs here have proven that they have different business models based on their target audience, because they know who their audience is. However, I don't think anybody's audience is really hopeful that your experience will come with slime and things like that. So, and the sweat component, the smell component. So return on investment, there's that in consumer, but then there's also the, I suppose, insurance side of things. We don't tout, since you asked me specifically about my company, we don't tout ourselves as being able to reduce your insurance, but we have been referred to by companies that have bought our product and put on their little form of how do you plan to protect people against contagions, and that has been helpful. So I would think for a person buying into any of our product line, number one, they probably have a 5-year plan or longer. Maybe if you're a pop-up or something smaller, you are waiting to test the field, if you will. But those two are kind of hand in hand. And then the third component is that we're a green product, so we're trying to help reduce waste and just help minimize it as much as possible.
Yeah, I can't put a number on it. Yeah, I don't have it. I think a lot of it is a psychological value. You see it, people see it, they use it, especially in the arcades, I would say. And it's also like, okay, what is the value of the problem when you have it there? That would be the trade-off. And we have, I completely agree. I like the solution, which is reusable. You don't use resources except electricity. That's like, we have disposable covers. Yeah, people want it and they use it. I prefer use our cloth covers and wash them. Yeah, they're reusable. So you do have a cost factor on there as well. If you can reuse it, you wash it. Yeah, they last, and your equipment itself lasts longer as well. Yeah, like you said, it breaks if the sweat's on it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, actually. That's another factor, I guess you could tell them, that it makes your equipment last longer for the insurance companies. I don't know if they care.
Yeah, I was talking to Brendan over here earlier about some of his stories because he's been around for a while, and he was describing, if you don't mind me sharing this, about having to, a woman came in, right, and correct me if I'm telling this wrong, but a woman came in and she decided not to use a headset. She said it smelled like something, body odor, right? Or she said she could smell it in the place, and so he figured out that the smell was coming from the headset, and he said he took it apart, and as he unscrewed it, and there was just a buildup of dust and residue inside it and on the electronics, right? And what else? But that particular part, because again, that comes down to the equipment, number one. So you are protecting your equipment, and also that does not sound like a fun job.
Yeah, I think that was topic in the conversation earlier as well. It's not one or the other. Yeah, you gotta protect the headset in itself, but you also have the part which everybody uses all the time, which you want to clean as well. But if you only take care of the cover, you're probably not covered.
The psychological component, as you mentioned, is important as well, because when people see, for instance, when we worked with Servios last year in a Creed game, right? So we people would do this boxing game and give us these headsets, and they were dripping wet with sweat and disgusting, and we had an acrylic front so you could actually see the lights, UV lights, and they could see that happening. But the fact that we gave it back to them a minute later, it was completely dry. They believed the light part of it because of the dry part of it, right? So that was it really happened. So it's not just psychological, but that part of the psychological, is an example of like, okay, you did this, we believe this, and that was really important. It made people either choose to continue to play the game or not.
And I just realized, Amy, I think if there were people here that weren't, actually they are here today that weren't here yesterday, maybe you can give a little background on your product, like how the light and everything, how it cleans.
Sure. So we utilize, we clean and dry headsets between users, if that's not obvious at this point. And we use medical grade UV light, UVC light, in an LED. So same light that's been used in hospital systems for decades, highly effective, but now it's made in an LED, so without the mercury tube, so you're not exposed to the heat of that or the toxins. It's a box, like the name would suggest, clean box. There are various form factors, so the core component is modular, but we use high pressure air, UVC LEDs, and we also use a super hydrophobic textile nano that you apply to your HMDs at the very beginning once a year, and that helps prevent the sweat and keep it to the surface of the headset, so that when you stick it in, a minute later, the air blows anything that's still on there, including makeup, including hair, skin, gross stuff from children, blows it off, and then if there's any moisture remaining, it completely dries it. So we're trying to solve as many, and of course, just kind of a slight byproduct of that is that you're not going to have the smells because the bacteria is being killed. So you're not going to have the wet, all the things that cause something to smell will no longer be there.
Thanks, Amy. Actually, those are all the questions I have. So if you guys have any other things to add that you could think of that I didn't think of?
No, I think I would just say, like, for us it's a topic, we talk about the fun of the game, and for us it's the same topic, like for all the people who make the arcades, for the companies who are melting devices. Yeah, we want this to be as enjoyable as possible, and that's our side of it, that we can take care of. That's one element.
Yes, certainly. Does anybody have any questions?
I would also be curious, okay, questions of course, but I would also be curious if you guys, whoever runs an arcade, what are things that you say? What should we do? What would you think, like, okay, out of your daily practice, what you would say, like, okay, VR cover, clean box, what, could you do this, could you do that? What is things from your experience that you would like us to do?
Hello. There is also a problem on the headset, but also on the harness for the backpack user, for example. There's a lot of sweat on the harness, and with time, the smell is really very strong. And also the perfume, the mix of the different perfume of people using the equipment. It's really difficult to remove this smell. It stay along the time, and I don't know if you are working on this also this problematic, because it's not bacteria, it's different, but it is still pregnant.
So for us, part of what we offer is includes the super hydrophobic textile nano, and what that is, it's a water-based nanotech, and you spray it on any kind of textile. So for the headsets, it's the soft surfaces, right? The foam or the rubber or the Velcro or whatever case. We have customers that use it on all their backpacks too. So they'll completely treat their backpack, and that will have the added effect of preventing the sweat from building up, makes it easier to dry at the end of the day. We don't offer a box of UV light for the backpacks because I think it would be cost prohibitive. Most people wouldn't, want to invest that kind of. It would be too expensive. There are other solutions that we're working on for building a box for backpacks and other body gear for other verticals that we work in as well. So it might translate over into entertainment. But it does help in terms of a lot of perfumes there's some sort of oil based in there, and the nano does keep that at the surface, and so keeps that from soaking in. It doesn't solve all the problems of the world, but it is very effective.
Yeah, from our side, like with the headsets, the question is always how. It's not like one fits all. I mean, the way how we design it modular, sometimes we can use the same element or cover on another headset, but usually we have to design it individually. Then it's always looking at the headset. You have a plastic part, you have a foam part, so can you take it separately? Can you take it off from the headset? How much do we have to remove? Right now, the headset manufacturers, if you looked at it, the Reverb or newer models that are coming out, it's easier. So I think they got the message. Yeah? So they're designing it in a way that it's also easier for us to cover the market with different demands. Now, to the vests, the headsets, you talk about hundreds of thousands. Yeah? So a lot of people come and cover. Every time we develop this, it's a serious effort. We have to look for materials, we have to look for suppliers, we have to design it, we take it apart, we do 3D scans, 3D models, we build. It's a lot of effort. Now the question is, how many vests do we have? Yeah? And for how much can we sell the final product? Some of the products we do a lot. We can sell a lot, that's fine. Some of them we do because we just want it, because we think this is a good product and we want to be in there, but Man, if we make money on it, we are lucky, yeah. So with the vest, it's really something we have to look at. I saw it. I'm not sure if the team has looked at it in the past. Right now we didn't, but I will check it as well. Yeah, I have to see how many vests are out there and how many are they actually used. But I cannot imagine. I don't know. What would you pay for a vest?
I think he was talking about the backpack, right?
Yeah,
Like
okay.
the HP backpacks or the
Yeah.
The harness
the
of the
MSI.
backpack. Yeah.
Yes.
This
The shoulder
area
strap,
is
yeah.
really sensitive
Yeah.
to sweat.
Yeah. So how much do you think would somebody pay for something like that?
You can ask to HP, for example.
Yeah.
They are the exact number of backpacks they have sold, HP or MSI, for example. But I think the market is here because there is a lot of use of backpack, increase use of backpack.
We have a look at it. Yeah, it's also now coming up a lot more controllers. Yeah, now the controllers get much more common, and you're going to see a few newer models with some fabric. So we're going to work on that one as well. Let's see. I'll have a look at it.
Yeah, I think you can ask to Joanna. She can tell you.
She ran away already,
She left.
She ran away.
but I got her email.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have to, go. Oh, is there one more question? Yeah, one more.
It's just a quick follow-up, because I was just thinking about, all the pieces of fabric, even the wristband around the controllers, the strap that goes above. I don't know what that is taking in, and they're never protected with any wipeable materials. And a lot of them seem to be standard. Like that strip is kind of a standard width. The backpack harness might be a standard width, so maybe there's a way to create some universal sort of cover. And I don't know how long the hydrophobic spray or dip or whatever it is lasts, but that might be something to apply to all these things.
You can actually. So the spray, and thanks for pointing that out. The spray is very, very durable. I've sprayed one headset of mine, and it's been there for 2 years, and it's exactly as durable as it was day one. Now that's mine, so it's not 1,000 people using it every day. At least I hope not. But I would say for a venue that sees 600 people to 1,000 people a day, you might need to reapply it on your headsets after 3 or 4 months. But it is extremely durable, and it goes to every single fabric part. And when you put the clean box, which I don't have pictures of, but if anybody is curious, you can always find me. When you put it in, it does dry all the pieces of the headset. You mentioned lice earlier. And lice is always a challenge because usually you kill lice with heat, the eggs anyway. So one thing though that CleanBox does is it's the same thing with the Textile Nano. What it does is it creates this invisible irregular surface at the top of the fabric. That keeps things from sticking. So if there's anything that would be prone to sticking or to connecting or integrating into the fabric, it keeps it at the surface. And the pressure of the air that comes through the CleanBox is high enough that it does blow it off. So there's that is how we're addressing currently those issues. But yes, you can apply it to any fabric.
In regards to head strips, we have some. Yeah, for some headsets we have them, and we work on new ones as well. So I think for all the major headsets, we're going to have them. I think it's less of an issue. People sweat a lot here, but they don't sweat even if people are shaved. They don't really sweat on top of that, but they said it's much more comfortable. And they're all wipeable. I mean, the ones that have a PU cover, they're all wipeable. And
Okay, so thank you, Amy and Matt.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Yeah. Last session.
And so next up, we have the VR Industry Investor Outlook. So